got a little problem we got to take a minute and rectify. Got this fourth gear nut, and deep inside of it is full of red Loctite, just full of it inside. It's not a pass the threads, but I've got to get in there and try to bore it out a little bit and get that red Loctite out of there and clean the inside of it up before I can use it and put 2 double seals down inside of it. So that's the plan. So we got our boat cleaned out inside. Now we'll put our double seals in it and it'll be good to go. So we've cleaned out our nut in here and we've got ourselves a few new seals. So we're just going to put a little bit of oil inside of here. And there's generally room for 2 seals here if you don't drive them way down inside, so that one hinders the other. The spring side down inside. See if you can start it with your fingers there a little bit. Okay, and we've got, what have we got here? 5/8. Just the right size. Just go slow. Drive it down in there nice and straight. And we're not all the way to the bottom yet, so we can go down just a little bit more. There we go. So when you get it in there, it's down in there a little ways, but we have a lot of shoulder inside to put our second one in there. So we're going to start it. And this one we're just going to leave flush with the end like that, so that there's space in between them. And hopefully that will also help counter a lot of the over-oiling problem. It'll at least stop it from coming out around and through the push rod. Okay, get some grease. I'm going to put some grease on the end of this. Make sure that there's lots there when we go to put the starter on there. Now, you can pull the fingers back. There we go. And because the starter's not in there, you can usually set this in to the fingers. There we are. Slide it in like that. And there we are, and it's ready to go into the starter. So now we have our little spacer on here. Okay, we've got our little key, the keyway. A little grease on that. This is probably the hardest part, is getting this key in the proper position so that it doesn't slip up, pop up like that. It's quite hard. But as I recall looking at this, we are on a separate hub assembly here. By being able to take the clutch hub basket off and put it on the shaft, it makes it a lot easier. As we spoke about earlier, there are these little sort of rings on here, and they are definite wear marks, but all of them have some. When they get really bad, then the clutch plates won't slide on here and they'll try to hang up, but we're not quite there yet. So we've put our key in, our Woodruff key in here, and we're going to line our clutch basket up, and once our clutch basket slides on, then we're going to put our little clutch hub nut lock on, and we're going to put this on, the hub nut, of which we now have double seals. So let's see if we can get it into place to start with. Pay attention to where your key is. Just get it up against it lightly. There we go. Slider. Lock up into place. And if you're in the key, the clutch hub won't rock. It'll sit there pretty solid. There might be a slight little bit to it until it's tightened up and the key really seats, but it should sit there. Now we want to pay attention to our hub lock. You could just crank it in there and tighten it in there and it'll flatten all those out right in there. But there is a keyway that should go in. Okay, just gonna put just a small, very small dab of grease on the back side around the key lock. And I can see that, paying attention, that the lock, the groove, is at 12 o'clock. So if you pay attention to that and keep an eye on the tabs, you'll know whether or not the tabs have moved. Carefully get it started in there right. Left hand thread again. Keep an eye on the little tabs. You should be able to just about get it worked up in place. There we go. My tabs are staying in place there. Alright, get this off here. Now, we need to try to bend some of the tabs over onto flat spots. There we go. Okay. We're well locked in place. Now we're going to put the primary drive back on just the way it came off. Set that on there. Get our primary shoe up and started. There we go. Can't put that in there right now, and I want to get a new coarse thread nut for in there on that. But that gets us in place. Threads are clean, and we want to put some red Loctite on there. Red Loctite in there. Okay. I know this one's set at 80 to 100 foot-pounds. So we'll get our jam bar in here. It's 80 to 100 pounds there. There we go. So I just put a little Loctite on this, although I don't really need it. Now, just put our clutch plates back in. These early plates, if any of them had out marked on them, that was common for them. A lot of the aftermarket don't have them on them, so they can go either way. Okay, now we're able to reinstall our clutch plate, our clutch pressure plate. As you've seen in the earlier video, we took this off by just having a washer on here of sorts. And now that it's time to go back on, it's really going to prove its worth, instead of trying to hold springs in place while you're trying to do this. Instead, we just line up with the ones with the holes. Any one. There we are. All of the nuts go in, of course, with the little cutout down, so we'll hit on these little bumps in here. We just snug them up so that they're snapping into a groove, so to speak. There we go. Another one. Another one. Get them so that they look sort of even. You'll find as soon as we start setting them up, what's even and what's not. Once you get them all snugged up around there, then we can take the nut off. Just very easily. The nuts and my washer's off. We can back this way off. And it's a good time to swing our clutch arm over. So to set up our pressure plate, we take our measurements from here. And they're inch and 1/32, all the way out, all the way around out. That plate should be inch 1/32. The earlier plates from 1968 and before always came out about 13/16, I believe it was. But now, after 1968, they go an inch and a 32nd, which is virtually an inch and a little bit for anybody who's watching. So that should about set that up. turn. Just snug her up there for now. We're just trying to get this clutch cable adjusted out a little bit. Okay, so we're looking pretty good. Now I should have put the starter bolt in there, so that's going to create a little bit of a problem for me, but I can work around it. It's only a short bolt, and I'm pretty sure I can get it in there. So we'll have to get down to it and see. But I should have put my starter on first, but it's not the end of the world. I didn't get my chain on there like I should have. So that will create another problem for me, but that's for tomorrow. So we're getting some things cleaned up, and I'm just cleaned all the sprocket kind of off, give it a good wipe, and I'm going to put the O-ring chain back together. And it's got these little tiny O-rings in it between the links. And we want to make sure to get them in there. We really want them on the back side of the rings, really. Get my little chain link compressor. This is a neat little tool. Just got 2 Allen screws in it, and you put the master link in there. There's cutouts on the other side to house the link, and you can tighten that in and pull the link together when you're trying to assemble something. We'll just get it in far enough so that she sort of bottoms out. And that should have it in there far enough for us to get the master link hooked up. Okay, certainly got it down far enough. The chain's going to move in this direction, this way. So we want to put our master link facing that way. We don't want the open end leading, so to speak. So we want to make sure that that goes on there with the other end leading. And we'll just put it on there and slip it on so that it goes over the link. Just get it enough to slide over and no more. There we go. And make sure that we're locked in well to the link. That should take care of it. So now we're going to set our clutch up before we put the cover on. And what we've done is backed off the cable that's up in here, which is your clutch cable adjustment up in here. And we back the screw off, and we just bring the screw in just so it touches. And I'm going to go back half turn, like that. Put our screw on. Start it in there. We've checked all our settings here. At 1 inch and 1/32 of what they're supposed to be. We're going to use our little tool here. Hold our screw in place. There. Okay. So in behind here is our little screw, and it is hard to see in there. You can see that that's where our cable goes there. And what we're going to do is take this adjusting screw now, and we're just going to turn this out to take up the slack in the cable. All the time checking our handle as well. We need to have a little bit of play in our handle, and see we still have play in that. You don't want to over tighten it, because if you over tighten it, the little fingers in there put continual pressure on the throw bearing. A little bit of play, and then there's a large locking nut up in here behind. There we go. And I believe that is a 9/16 back in there. And it just has to be locked against the plate. There we go. You always need a little bit of play in the clutch handle up here so that it's not constant pressure. Things will seat in a bit once we drive it a little bit anyway, but that's a good starting point. So now we're going to go around and put our primary on. We have everything tightened up. Our nuts are tight. These are all good. We've set that. This is tight. Everything's tightened in there. There's no reason we can't put the primary on. So let's do that. So we've got our handy dandy primary installer kit out. And this one is a prime example for it. These are just 4-inch long bolts that we've cut the heads off of them. And they're going to help us put our primary in. Just put them in lightly with your fingers. Especially down here on the bottom, where they tend to sag out is in the bottom. Okay. Let's not forget our little sort of thrust washer here goes up on the starter. If that gets forgotten, the starter can kick out too far, so it's important to get that. Now this type of older gasket is your primary example of what we're talking about for using these screws. You can see that trying to hold it up in there, and there's no pins or anything, and trying to keep it in place would be almost impossible to ensure that it's on there right. But with our little studs, and you can already see how it's starting to hold everything into place. It's a little soggy up here, but I'd rather have it down here because I know on these older ones that's where they tend to sag down. So we'll grab our primary. And we'll just start it on the bottom 2 screws, 2 studs, the top ones. And I'm going to just put a little screw in the top here because it still wants to sag down in that one area, but that's all right. Just stick a little screw in there. There we go. I don't like to let the drill tighten it up. Final bit, I like to feel them. There. Okay. So you can see how a couple of 4-inch screws, bolts, with the heads cut off them, would make your life a whole lot easier when it comes to putting your primary case on. So I suggest you take the time, once you do that, once you have them, you'll take a minute. You'll always take a minute and go, oh, I'm gonna grab them bolts there and put my primary on. And now that we've buttoned it up, I usually do it previous, but I didn't. So I will do it now, and it's a good time to Teflon tape your bolt up a little bit here. All right, Just got to put fluids in it and that's it. So we'll try to get some of the pieces back on. See where we're at here and what kind of spacing he had. So now we've got our solenoid hooked back up. The long stud, always the long stud, goes to the battery. And the short stud, if you remember S for short, always goes to the starter. Now I have seen it in some manuals, some of the earlier manuals, where they've actually reversed that. You've got to remember to put a rubber boot on. And we need the little one. Now we'll go over and finish hooking up the oil tank and the battery box and all that sort of stuff, but for all intents and purposes we're pretty well cleaned up here. All we got to do now is add some fluids in here and that will be good to go. Alright, let's go around the other side. Okay, make sure all our lines are clear everywhere here. This is our starter wire, looks good now. It's not rubbing like it was before. It was crushed in behind the transmission. Let's see if we can get our battery box in. Pull these little washers out all the way. And there's two slots in the back here. They should slide right over those and the washers to start with. There's also this little 1/4 inch one out here, so we're just going to stick a nut on there. And just go ahead and get it fitted in there as best you can. Fortunately, because of the angle, you can't get a socket in there. Get in there underneath my wiggler. Just enough room in there. In some cases, you got to frig around with it a little bit to get it to fit how you want. Now our little bracket, a little L bracket that goes underneath. It's hooked onto the transmission and the rubber mount underneath the battery box. That will keep it all sturdy. All right, now a little washer on that and a rubber mount. There we go, plug the relay back in and it goes back in here in a kind of an awkward spot. There's a countersunk nut back there, but you've got to hang this relay back up in there off of a little screw. There we go. And it's mounted in there nice and clean and tucked in underneath the battery box there. Yeah, let's see if I get the battery back in here. Seems to me that was a real chore to get out. Put your little lockdown on. Another piece of the puzzle, John. So now we're just about down to it. A few little things to tidy up tomorrow and just check it all over, and then I think that this bike should be ready to go. And I'm sure that he'll enjoy it a lot better with that new transmission that will shift beautifully and work good. The other one was tired out. Time to be replaced. But that gets this whole shovel going along for another year, so keep on rocking. So today we're down to it. We got all the pieces together, the tranny's back in it, and we just got to put the fluids in it now. So we're going to go along and do that today and get those topped up, and maybe fire the thing up and make sure everything's working all right. It's a little chilly to be driving, but I have confidence in everything going through all the gears and stuff. I tested it all on the bench. Everything seemed to be fine, so I'm sure it'll be good here. So let's start by topping up the tranny. So we've got to get this nut off here. Should be on there, but not too awful tight. Well, she got on there a little bit. I'm just going to clean off around the threads there. They shouldn't be dirty, but just to make sure that nothing falls down inside. Give me just enough room, I hope. Yeah. We took the little cap off, and now we can look down in there, and of course it's dry in there because we've had the tranny apart. So I think what the thing to do is you fill it up almost to the bottom of the hole there. A lot of other tranny covers, they'll have like a little Allen screw in there. And a lot of guys say, what's that for? And that's for you stand your bike up on the center stand and take the Allen screw out, and the oil will dribble out of there. And that's when it's set up right and proper the way it should be. In this case, this is an older style cover, and it's just to the bottom of the hole. So we're going to start and get at it. I like to use this 85, I guess it's 85 140 gear oil in the old transmissions. The newer stuff is too slick, too smooth. And these things, as with the engines, need stuff a little thicker to save you a lot of problems. So we'll just put this bottle in it. And we're looking pretty close there now, I think. Not quite to the lip, we'll fill it. But I'm not going to button it up because as things move around in there or we turn the motor over and such, it takes a little while for the fluid to get all across over to the other side. And now we're almost up below the window. So that looks pretty good for now. We're just going to let it settle down in there, which it's already doing. So it'll take a little bit for it to cross all over into the transmission. I'm just going to leave the cap off it. That way I know the cap is off. Oh yeah, she's settling down in there quite nice. Not coming out anywhere else. So there you can see the fluid just below the ring in there. And it is going down, so we'll let it settle, and as the thing turns over. But before we're done, we'll fill that up. Now we're ready to put the primary fluid in. So I'm going to put it in through here so that I can just bring it up to the bottom of the basket. Taking these off, always do the top one last. I know that sounds silly, but it's a lot easier to hold on there. Primary chain case oil. I'm pretty sure I should be able to put close to a liter in there. We'll have a look. I expect she's going to take a liter. So inside here you can see where the oil is just up to the bottom of the basket here. It's just up touching the bottom of the steel basket into the clutch plates. And that's what we're looking for in there. We don't want to oversaturate it, but that's plenty, especially when it's used to running just with the old in and out system. So we're going to button it up there. So we're good. So now I just took a moment to take these little screws over and wire brush them all off and clean all the threads off. There was obviously old Loctite in them when you took it apart, and you know it's hard, lumpy stuff. And we are threading these steel bolts into aluminum covers. And over the amount of years, they've been on and off and on and off, and different bolts used. The threads in the aluminum casing can get worn, as with everything. So just cleaning the threads off, taking a moment and wire brushing them all off, can save you a lot of grief from a stripped thread in there. And it also gives you a nice clean surface for your screw or your bolt as well, for the Loctite to adhere to, because it needs a nice clean surface to grab to. But these would do especially careful, because they're just screws, so you can only get them so tight. So they need their Loctite. Alright, another thing to clean off. But okay, now we've got that in there. Time to start pouring some oil to it. Sometimes some stuff has sumped into the motor after it's sat there for a long period of time too, so I hesitate on overfilling the tank. Once we have the bike running, I'll top the oil tank off. Now we just got to get our spark plugs back in. I've looked everything else over. It all looks pretty good to me. So we'll get our plugs in it and we'll go from there. I always rub a little bit of Never Seez on there. There are some discrepancies as to will it work, does it work, should you do it, shouldn't you do it. I'm probably not the one to tell you, but I usually always do it. You can't hurt. Never force them in, always just let them find their own way down there and they should screw in. If they don't, you're binding something up or there's dirt in the threads or something, so stop right there and back it out and have a look. These particular ones with the 5-gallon tanks, you can't get a ratchet on them, so you need a spark plug one so you can put a hex end on it there. And just make sure you get a nice clean pull. Let's do it for that. I guess now all we gotta do is get it off the stand and fire the puppy up. Alright, the fun part. I'm not sure what the combination is, but pretty sure out is on. Couple shots. So we're trying to figure this out, and it's just like a dead short drain somewhere. I don't know. So I've kind of looked around, and you know, it's again a process of elimination. Somewhere something's happening. I turn the lights on, I got no draw, it's fine. As soon as I hit the starter button. So the obvious place to look is back to where your starter connections are, and the only place that we really changed anything was down here on the solenoid itself. So let's have a look. It does look like we may have a small mark in the back of it. I would say possibly down to the metal. So we're going to see if we can find a little smaller, not to move this out just a hair to get it out away from that, because it still has to kind of go in that upward direction. So we'll see what we can find and we'll get back. Hard to find one of those nuts, but I did find one. And I'm going to put it on this terminal to help bring the terminal or the fitting out. So we've got a longer nut in there locked in now. That'll help space this out a little ways. And I'm really hoping that was the problem. Doesn't take much and act like a dead short across there. All right, we'll give it a shot. Seems like the battery was dead, so I'll probably have to charge that up, but maybe it'll give us an idea where we're going. Nah, it's dead. Obviously that made a difference. I think it was touching there. I think it might have been just that little bit. We seem to be all right there now. So it shows you, just check those little things, even though you think you put it on right, and you were sure you did, somewhere in behind, something just touching just ever so slightly enough to cause a problem. So never be too proud to double check your work. So we got everything squared away on the shovel there, and once I charged the battery up, John came out and showed me the combination to start his bike. Now, through all my years, I know that many shovels have different combinations. I myself used to say, if you can kickstart it, you can drive it away, and guys couldn't do it. So before I proceeded too much farther, I just called John and said, come on with John, let's see how you start this thing. And away she went, no problem at all. So he's coming to pick it up today, but we're having a day with 7 degrees above and little sprinkles, and John decides he's gonna drive it home. So we'll get some video of him getting out of here. All right. So John's here to pick up his bike today. 7 degrees.
Frosty fingers
No
around.
pepper. Jeez Louise. Better than snow.
Indeed.
At least we ain't getting any of that. No snow yet, so we can't complain. So, we got John on his way and he's down the road. When he went for the first ride, he came back, clutch cable popped and broke. So we've just spent 2 hours getting a new clutch cable on it and getting that all working. And now he's just gone up and down the road and give me the blow by and the big wave that everything's okay. So, glad I could get him out today. It is a bit chilly, but he's gonna get his bike home and tuck her in safe for the winter, and she'll be ready for the spring. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, ring the bell, do those sorts of things. It helps our channel to grow, and we appreciate it very much. So stick around, check out our next videos as they come along.